A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Nothing like a bone-chilling, Oscar-worthy performance by the Lord and Savior of horror and drama, Anthony Hopkins, huh? I'm John Renton with the retro review of The Silence of the Lambs from 1991. One of the most bone-chilling, horrific movies of all time, in my personal opinion. Pitch fucking perfect, based on a very popular book by Thomas Harris. It was written by Ted Tally. No, not Tallywood. Tallywood Singers. I don't think that's how that works. He did All the Pretty Horses, The Juror, Before and After, Red Dragon, and 12 Strong. This was directed by Jonathan Demme, who actually passed away a few years ago. May he rest in peace. Married to the Mob, Philadelphia. Tom Hanks. Everything he says, is funny. I have AIDS. So yeah, in case you can't tell from the explosions, I'm recording this on 4th of July. Why? I didn't want to wait for this day to be over. I want to talk about this movie upon rewatching it because Longlegs is coming out in just a few days, and that movie has been compared quite favorably to this. So I was like, okay, we'll see. I'll rewatch this and see just how goddamn good it is. And so I don't know why they need to remake The Manchurian Candidate, as great as Denzel Washington is. But nevertheless, Jonathan Demme, Ted Tally brought this story to life, and what a story it was. It flew by, and almost every goddamn scene was fucking bone-chilling. And the fact that Anthony Hopkins gets just under 25 minutes of screen time according to IMDb, and he made it, so impactful, so memorable. And he studied serial killers. He made sure to dive into it. And Jodie Foster, who already had a lot of great performances in her career up to this point, this was basically career-altering, because this is a role that basically defined the rest of her goddamn career, even though she has had many great roles since. She's had some questionable roles as well. Flight Plan, but I digress. So, Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Jodie Foster as Hello Clarice Starling. FBI cadet plucked out of the academy because Jack Crawford, Scott Glenn, who's a terrific character actor, said, "Hey, Clarice, you need to go talk to Lecter because we have somebody that's skinning women alive for some goddamn reason, targeting them, and we need to find out why. We think Lecter knows. Maybe he's somebody that he used to know. Somebody that he used to know." So yeah, in case you can't tell, it's going to be a bit of a different review than normal. I'm going to talk about the story, but I'm also going to talk about some of my favorite goddamn scenes, because this movie, I see something new every single time I watch it, because even some of the stuff that you thought you remembered, you're like, oh shit, that scene was great, but oh, this scene's even better than I remember. And I don't know, do you think Silence of the Lambs still holds up? I do. Sure, the technology is a bit dated. It was 1991. After all, that's back when we still had payphones. That's right, kids. We used to put quarters in things to call people. So, you had Ted Levine, who plays Buffalo Bill. He's Jamie Gumb. And Ted Levine's a very good actor, and you'd be surprised what roles he's had. You had Anthony Held. I wanted to keep calling him Harold. He plays Dr. Frederick Chilton, who's great. Absolutely great. Has a giant face also. Just a giant face. You had Brooke Smith. You had Charles Napier. You had Casey Lemons. You had even Roger Corman. You also had musician Chris Isaac. No, really. Look up the cast. I forgot about that. So let's talk about facts and figures before I dive into this particular review any further. We had a $19 million budget, and in $1991 compared to today, that is $43.8 million. So that's mild, actually, in all honesty, especially for how big these actors would be. I mean, Anthony Hopkins already was a hell of a goddamn actor and almost a household name by this point. $13.7 million opening, so okay, if it has legs, it'll make some money. That was $31.5 million in today's money, and $130.7 million for the U.S. gross. That's just over $300 million and a $272.7 million worldwide gross. $628.8 million in today's money. So, yeah, that was a smashing success. Took forever for Hannibal to be made, as hilarious as that was. And if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler here for Hannibal, they had Ray Liotta eating a piece of his own brain. And you know what? It was funny. And also, Julianne Moore had to replace Jodie Foster because of other commitments. Julianne Moore, who I have just adored for years, and how could you not look at her? So anyway, yeah, then Red Dragon, which was less than good. But Anthony Hopkins commands the screen. And don't get me wrong, Jodie Foster is right there with him. Sure, she was like a little lamb, and she basically would have to grow, as far as a character throughout the movie, and that lamb thing ties back in, or ties into something that happened earlier in her life that we find out about. But, yeah, Clarice hears about Buffalo Bill and says, well, we need to stop this guy. We need to stop this guy from skinning these women, these bigger women, because he wants to make a skin suit. Why does he want to make a skin suit? Because he had such massive trauma that he sees himself as somebody that's transsexual. Even though according to Lecter, no, he thinks he is one, but he's not actually a real one. He has the idea of one, but he doesn't have the, he basically truly isn't one. He's just a sick freak. And Dr. Hannibal Lecter was obviously, psychiatrist, therapist, whatever you want to say. And then he started killing people. Why? I mean, why the fuck not? If you look like Anthony Hopkins, you'd kill people too. I mean, that's unfair. Anthony Hopkins is a great guy, I assume. So, seeking help from Hannibal Lecter, straight out of the academy. I did find it funny that we had Jodie Foster in the Forest to People, all these other kids in there. I'm not going to finish the rest of that. Again, Chris Isaak, the musician, as an actor, and I don't know why that surprised me. Some good music in this. Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus is one that sticks out in my mind for obvious reasons. So, Scott Glenn, Crawford warns her. Be careful what you say. Believe me, you don't want Hannibal Lecter inside your head. And Lecter, he's eating people. He's eating them. And then he's going to eat me. Oh, my. No, I'm not going to retro-view Troll and Troll 2. Don't make me. Don't make me do that. Okay, maybe for horror movie month. So, she goes to see Lecter. And I just love this. The way this prison's set up, it's like a tomb. It's like a labyrinth. Just this hall, just this dungeon into madness. It's nuts. And you got the sick freaks there. You got this one guy, Miggs, that spooges on her goddamn face, because he's all freaky. But Lecter just talking to Clarice and just here again, only just under 25 minutes of screen time, and he's absolutely bone-chilling. With every single facial expression, every single word. It's nuts. So, he talks to her, talks about, various things, but also wants certain things back from her. He doesn't want a cell where he can't see the outside world. He wants to have a few things where he can, have a few amenities, or anemones, however the hell you say that goddamn phrase. And she decides to go with some searching, like for Moffat the Tophet, who actually was not eating Curzon Way. That actually has to do with a storage facility. But man, the library, files, the microfiche, God, that takes me back, for God's sakes. Anyway, so we find out that guy Miggs is spooged on her face and got talked to by Lecter until he was driven mad and ended his life. A 10-year storage contract. Those were the days. I don't even think you could do a 1-year storage contract. Maybe you can. I don't know. So she gets in there after cutting her leg, trying to use the car jack to get up on this particular, get underneath this door that has been locked for a while, and the guy that owns the thing looks like he just stepped out of the Jack the Ripper days. Same with the driver, same with the car, same with the location, to be perfectly honest. But nevertheless, she does cut her leg, possibly getting tetanus. It's a good job there for getting that taken care of. But there's certain things in there, including, well, a mannequin in a dress and a head in a jar. Why is there a head in a jar? Buffalo Bill had a lover, and Buffalo Bill was particularly dicey with loving women a little bit too much and in the wrong ways. So, 32 minutes in, we do get the first glimpse of Buffalo Bill when he kidnaps a woman, kills her, the cat. But the cat, did somebody feed the cat in the window? I must know. 91, that cat is long dead. Hope that cat had I hope every cat in this movie had a great life. I think there were 2. But yeah, tricks her to getting into the van by helping her get a love seat in there. I do have to say Ted Levine is fucking phenomenal in this. The sexism about her being a female agent, straight out of the cadet academy, as opposed to the non-cadet academy, as opposed to police academy. Police academy, they made 6. They made 6 of those. I don't know why. Love the guy that made the shot or the sound effects and everything. He was great. So yeah, the sexism is just off the charts and creepy. I do want to once again shout out Anthony Heald for playing Chilton, just absolutely great. He's not going to give him those things, and it was just all a lie. But as violent as this is, and there are some violent parts, there are some vicious parts, it's what you don't actually see. It's what happens off camera, even as you see maybe blood splattering. It's what you don't see in full that is actually scarier, because then your imagination runs wild. The cast and crew do a great job with that. And it's the performance. It's just, everything is just so layered, simplistic yet layered. It works perfectly. And fax machines, man, how futuristic are those? Who still uses a fax machine in 2024? I'm genuinely asking. At least in America, I would like to know that. So, it turns out that her dad was a town sheriff or deputy. He ended up, upon 2 burglars, and ended up dying. We see, flashbacks while she's at a funeral for one of the girls. They do an inspection of her. They find a bug in her mouth. It's actually, a moth. And it's actually not a moth. It's a moth-like structure. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. That actually has nothing to do with moths. But yeah, it's the moths, it's the flying around, hence the moth that's over the mouth and everything on the poster. And one of the guys, played by Paul Lazar, has them east-west eyes. Shawn Michaels must have taken inspiration to have his eyesight later on. But yeah, the violence is good, but the violence gets turned up later, especially once Anthony Hopkins starts to get what he wants. And you thought Anthony Hopkins wasn't in this movie all that much. Buffalo Bill is on camera less. And Ted Levine excels in this role. He's tremendous. I mean, he's been tremendous in other stuff before and since. This is definitely the role to put him on the goddamn map. We get some glimpses into Bill's lair. One of the people that he captured was Catherine, who's a senator's daughter. This senator is bound and determined to get her daughter back. And keeps, gives a speech and keeps referring to Catherine as a person. Keeps saying the name. So you add an identity, and then the killer may not see as an object, because even as vicious as some can be, you see them as a person, it gets a little bit harder to kill them. So I've heard. Don't come over here and look under the house. No, nevertheless, I kid. If Lecter helps Catherine, he wants his wishes granted. But then we do quid pro quo, yes or no. Why did you run away after your dad died? Why did you run away from that farm 2 months after you went there? And it turns out she actually went. She happened upon a barn, saw some spring lambs being slaughtered for meat, and I imagine just because, for supplies. That's what farms do, unfortunately. She couldn't free all the lambs. She took one with her. She could only get a few miles. It was heavy. She was young. The sheriff got her. The lamb died. And now she hears the screaming of the lambs. She does not hear the silence of the lambs. And he says, so if you save Catherine, will that stop the screaming of the lambs? Again, bone-chilling shit. So, they talk about how Bill isn't, he tries to be trained, but he's actually not. He's just a vicious killer and an asshole. It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. Put the lotion in the fucking basket. Ted Levine even does a nice mocking thing of Catherine being all like, freaking out. It's great shit. Chilton basically makes a mistake of continuing to push Lecter. You're not getting that deal. She lied about all that stuff. Clarice did. She did lie about a bit of it, but not about getting them to transfer. So, what's Bill's actual name? It's Jamie Gumb. That's who it is. But he says Lewis' friend, which is just kind of funny. And then you have the brown, mouth guard thing. The mask that just has, like, a few things open for the like the teeth and everything, and maybe you can get the tongue through, and you could do that. What an eccentric performance. But he's talking to the senator, and things seem good. He's like, I will help you, Crawford and Starling have wasted enough of your time. Hopefully we can get her safe and sound. You have my word that this will be okay. This guy had a lover, and he basically ended up going just, quite frankly, absolutely overboard, but that's not all. The senator, he ends up saying, did you breastfeed her? Did you do all it? Just the way he just says it just amps it up, and simply doesn't raise his blood pressure, just raises, talks in a low enough tone. I mean, raises it enough so he hears, or, she hears him, but doesn't get angry. And Chilton referred to something earlier, showing something before Clarice first met Lecter. Here's a picture of a nurse that he had a complaint about some health issue, and they managed to save one of her eyes and put her jaw back together. And we don't see the picture because we just imagine all this shit. Again, what you don't see. And his pulse never went above 85 because he's just that calm. He's that calculated. He is that bone-chillingly scary. So, yeah, if you save Catherine, will you still hear the screaming of the lambs? So we basically see that, and Bill, by the way, does have a dog, a little like poodle type dog. Actually, it's like a Bichon Frise, they're very vocal dogs. I don't like them, but they deserve good homes. But they're noisy for me. So, what I liked about this was the part where the cops are going to give him his meal. He wanted lamb chops extra rare. And he's in this open area of this like giant prison cell. It's almost like the cage that they would lower, the asylum cage they would lower in WCW. I'm sorry to give you PTSD flashbacks of late era WCW, but they would do that, and it was one of those cages, and it was open. So yeah, you had a few more like things he could use and have, but the cops made sure to handcuff him. Well, he had something. He had a piece of metal where he could pick the lock. They didn't see this. We see it. We know what's going to happen, or at least we think we know what's going to happen. One of the cops handcuffs him. They bring that in, mind the drawings, so they go to move the drawings. He uncuffs himself, and he bites one guy, maces the wound, so he's down, obviously, because pepper spray hurts enough, especially on an open wound. And the other cop is handcuffed, meanwhile, and then Anthony Hopkins, and we see it. It's looking right after Anthony Hopkins. So we see him beating the cop with the billy club. And just the blood is getting on his shirt. It's all crazy. And apparently, there was talk of putting him in a different type of colored, jumpsuit thing. He says, no, it has to be white. It will look better. It will be more unsettling. And Anthony Hopkins was right. It's not that he was disagreeing with the direction of them, like saying, oh no, I know better. He said, no, let's try this. And he was right. But just the visual of him beating the cop and doing that. It's so good. It's so good, and it's mind-numbing madness. So, yeah. he kills one, and then he takes the face of the other cop and puts it on his. Yeah. He strings one up like an angel. He puts the other dead cop's face on his face and makes it look so good. And the cops aren't aware of this because they see somebody coming. They see the elevator lowering. But they aren't the cops. What the hell's going on? He put the jumpsuit on the cop's body, one of the cops, and put him on the elevator roof. And then we see all that going. He's managed to get back. He's managed to escape. So, okay, just let's get back to Clarice and the fact that one of the girls, the first victim, was the third body found. Frederica. From Belvedere, come here, boy, Ohio. And the reason she was the first victim, but he weighed her down. Oh, he's not familiar with it. He knew her. He coveted her. He wanted her to be this type. Just, he wanted her to be different, so to speak. And then he learned gradually. So, what ended up happening, besides the explosions outside, because they're all celebrating that Hannibal Lecter got away, Catherine, is also trying to get the dog down there, not to basically hurt the dog, but to get access to a telephone, basically. It's like, I'll kill your dog if you don't give me this. So that's a pretty good scene. And Jodie Foster, Clarice, is trying to investigate all this stuff going on. It's absolutely insane. It is insane, the fact that she's so close, and Crawford thought that they were close, and this big old plane, they were in the wrong house. There was this woman named Mrs. Lipman that was somebody that Frederica and her friend Stacy used to know. And that got pretty damn creepy, because then she happens right upon his house and doesn't know what he looks like. We know what he looks like, but she doesn't know what he looks like. But before that, the part in the ambulance where, where Anthony Hopkins manages to just rip the face off, and we don't see what he ends up doing, but he killed the ambulance, crew, killed a citizen, took his money, and managed to get away. Now, we don't know where he got away to, but we find out a little bit later. And then, of course, the iconic Buffalo Bill scene where he's got the skin suit and all that. Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me so hard. Goodbye Horses, played by Q Lazarus. That's great. It's a proper song too. If you listen to the lyrics, it just fits so well. I can imagine that really hurt to probably tuck his junk like that. That probably would have hurt. But he invites Clarice in, and yeah, here's this card, this information that I have and everything, and it's obvious that he's the killer. Now, she has her gun ready, but she's a cadet. She has had training, but she has never been in the field. And he is prolific. He's had multiple victims that sure may have struggled. And he's got that one there. And she's got his dog. But she is bound and determined to make sure that Clarice brings him to justice. And Catherine is stuck down there. Catherine's panicking because she sees Clarice. But Clarice has to go because she has to get him. He's got this labyrinth under his house of this basement area with all these doors, all these dilapidated doors and all this crazy stuff. And 32 minutes in, earlier when we first saw him, he was using night vision goggles. So he goes to use that again. And he's just about to get her, just about to touch her, and then says, no, I'm going to use my gun. You hear the click. He turns around, and he may have shot once. I think he shot once. She unloaded the whole damn thing and shot and killed him because he's right in front of her. So he's dead. Catherine and the dog, thankfully, are rescued. And, yeah, we find out about that. We find out that Jodie Foster ends up getting, basically accepted as an FBI agent. And then, of course, we have the end, a bone-chilling end. Chilton arrives in Haiti, Jamaica. I'm not actually sure where the hell they're at. But he says, if Lecter's calling her and says, the world's better with you in it, so don't worry. Don't come after me, I won't come after you. And I'd love to chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. And there you go. That is The Silence of the Lambs, one of my favorite movies of all time. A bone-chilling movie is something that I can watch every single year and not get tired of. It is definitely, it's scary, it's creepy, and it absolutely is 1,000% quotable. I only scratched the surface of stuff that you could quote. So let me know your thoughts on The Silence of the Lambs in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.